Hello and welcome, Rangers. I'm Joe here from East co-host Dan.
Hello and greetings.
And probably not the fastest intro we've ever done, but it'll do. We're going a little slow today. So, yeah, the last video was one of our more successful videos. So that's good. At least in the recent past. So last time we had the splendid Dulcia who showed up. Dressed rather conservatively, if I may add. But this time we have the thankfully genuinely conservative Ivan Ooze. Yeah. Who, ironically enough, has decided to shapeshift. I'm not sure why, but he's, I don't know, basically pretending to be something like a snake oil salesman. So he kind of tries to make himself look a bit like, I don't know, Bill Gates or something. But the thing is, the kids, not being well versed in the nature of, well, capitalism. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist that joke. Just fall for his snake oil, or I should say his ooze, and bring the disgusting goo home. And one would expect that the parents would go, yeah, this looks gross. I'm throwing this out. But it seems to have, oddly, a hypnotic effect on parents, so that the minute they see it, they just have the urge to dip their hand in there. Which, not cool. And, of course, the thing is, the Rangers aren't there to stop him, and Zordon's out of commission. And what's even funnier is that Ivan is even broadcasting his announcement across the globe. Why? I guess he wants to be on TV that badly. In reality, he's marketing his goo because he needs slaves to help find his Defamorphicans or whatever. And he actually knows the exact location where they are. So, thankfully, they're torn apart near where he was sealed. And I know someone's going to say, well, why didn't Zordon move it? Oh, I'm sure him and his entire corporation could move it. What is this, Kaiba Corp? No, he doesn't have the resources to. And honestly, the last team he sent to deal with those things died. So
there was only so much he could do.
Yeah, he had 6,000 years to basically just look at it and go, I could have handled that better. And, yeah. Ivan's scheme is evident. And yet, it's remarkable because he's pretty darn successful at it. He doesn't need to expend much effort. He's not sending out random goons across the city. He's just patiently digging away at where his Defamorphicans are buried. He doesn't do any more than that.
He's waited over
6 millennia.
Exactly. He could wait a couple days. That's probably his mentality.
The problem is, time soon ends up being somewhat of a factor when his Tongu warriors report back to him, telling him, hey, boss, yeah, you know, we very easily overpowered the Power Rangers. Oh, really? So they're all dead? Well, let's define dead. Like, they're basically a face of a sack. They probably should have been lawyers. What? I mean, they enjoy murder. Lawyers did. I mean, look at the French Revolution. No, I'm not joking here. I'm serious. Most of the French Revolution was clerks, lawyers, and that sort of fellow. So, you know, they enjoy murder, they enjoy screwing people over, and they're very evasive with their answers. Evidently, they've had legal training. And the trouble is, Ivan's not exactly fond of people who lawyer with him. And his response to them lying to him, which is what lawyers do, is to say, hold up. You didn't kill him. Well, they would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for those darn meddling kids and their dumb dog, too. No, I'm kidding. Actually, it was Dulcia with her whistling sticks. And it's interesting because they don't know who she is. And they said, well, she broke... she broke her staff in half and started spinning it around, and we couldn't handle it. Hold up, sticks? Do these sticks make a whistling sound? Well, more like nails on the chalkboard. Uh-oh. Now, we have to regard her whistling sticks as basically having a magical or mystical quality to them that drove them mad with fear, so they had to flee from her. And the thing is, the effect this had on them is one which is just starting to abate, and they're realizing, oops, they kind of showed up to report without anything to show for it. And Ivan isn't impressed. But he's also panicking. And this is interesting because this is the first time we see him panic. And I'm not going to lie. I have the theory that the one who may have armed the previous generation of Rangers with that egg might have been her. Either her or Zordon. And if she didn't help with the egg, she probably helped find the Quasar swords to help power the Rangers up enough to survive the initial clash. Because the regular Ranger powers, there's no way that they were strong enough to survive a single clash with Ivan. And in some ways, Zordon, I find that looking at all the powers Ivan has on display in this series, in this movie, I think Zordon was panicking when he threw the Rangers into the ring. Yeah, Tommy's got great power, and the other Rangers are really skilled. They didn't stand a ghost of a chance against Ivan. He panicked, threw them in over their head, and, Ivan decided, ironically, this was the better course of action for the Rangers, in that they were lucky because this was a foolish tactical mistake on Ivan's part. He went for Zordon, not the Rangers. He could have clear-cutted the Rangers. Oops. But Dulcia is now taken them under her protection, and she obviously did something in the ancient past that fills Ivan with dread. And Ivan's reaction is to tell the Tongu warriors, you idiots. She's going to lead. If she leads them to the secret power and they claim it, there's no telling whether or not I'll be able to stop them. Don't you realize what's happened? And this is where he makes another tactical mistake. He lets his temper get the better of him. He does that a lot. The difference between him and Zed is that Zed is ultimately much more level-headed, even in his fits of anger. While Ivan, he's asked by the Tongu warriors, what, do you want us to take another whack at it? They're like, we screwed up last time. This, I think, could have worked well to Ivan's advantage. Although I think the Ninjetti powered Rangers could have taken on the Tongu. I do think they could have won, because they are slightly enhanced. But the Tongu warriors, I would argue, are... I would argue they still could have tired out the Rangers and delayed them. Trouble is, Ivan lets his temper get the better of him and just decides, how about taking another quack at it? Basically calling them liars here, because they're quacks. They lied to him. And he destroys them. That said, I actually kind of like the Ivan scenes. I like that he's got these flaws, and that this Hanarsha, that is to say, that's a Greek term for a fatal mistake or flaw, is that he tends to behave irrationally. Ivan is all power and nihilism. So, of course, his rage and even his sadisticness takes on a impulsive edge to it. And the thing is, every decision is made for the most part in an impulsive manner. He's not some grand strategist. He's a good tactician, but he can win a battle, but he can't win a war. And he self-sabotages every step of the way in a way that you never see Zed or Rita do. This is, in a way, a polar opposite to Lord Zed, who was a great strategist, but a poor tactician in some ways. Like, he could be good at some tactics, but ultimately Zed was someone who would lose like 3 battles to win the war. I mean, look at how he utterly destroyed the resolve of 3 of the original Rangers, broke the Green Ranger powers, and that was sound stratagems, but not great tactics. Whereas Ivan employs some pretty good tactics, but has no overall clear strategic goal. Like, yeah, I know he wants to bring back his giant machines and ravage the universe. He wins some good victories, like he distracts the Rangers, takes out Zordon, and even sends out the Tongu Warriors in what is a pretty good tactical decision. But he doesn't heed the advice of Lord Zed and Rita, who have a much better clear-eyed strategy in mind. He gets rid of them. He gets rid of the Tongu Warriors. He doesn't listen to people's advice. He doesn't care for it. And everything is based on his sadistic momentary pleasures or on his fits of rage. So, very good tactician. Terrible strategic thinker. So in a lot of ways, he's not Julius Caesar so much as he's Pompeius Magnus. Or even the conspirators who went after Caesar. You know what I mean? Like, they were good tacticians, but they had no strategy, no plan in place. So the thing with him is, once he has his Defamorphicans, what's next? He doesn't have it figured out. He's just going to destroy everything. But there's no strategy to it. But that's him. He's nihilism embodied in, I won't say human flesh, but in ooze and vapors and whatnot. While Zed is all strategy and no tactics to a limited extent. He does have some good tactics on occasion. It's just Zed is someone whom, alright, well, I'll lose the battle, but I'm going to try to win the war. Like, okay, it's not this battle, but the next one. And Zed is in a lot of ways like how a lot of DC fans fancy Darkseid to be. Darkseid, well, okay, because he's poorly written, it's heads I lose, tails you win. Every time. He always loses. He finds a way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Zed is the opposite. He'll lose a battle, but it's basically heads I win, tails you lose. And he'll win, like, the grander battle. And there are layers and layers to Zed's victories. And I'd even argue Drakina comes the closest to being like this, but even she's not like this. Vipra might come a little closer in some ways, because she seemed like a bad tactician, but a good strategist in a lot of ways. Vipra, or whatever her name is, from Lightspeed Rescue is a very underrated villainess. I find her a lot cleverer than Rita. But it's the Leviathan chick who's just, or whatever her name is, you know who I mean. The ultimate big bad in there who's ultimately incompetent. But here, what I will say is Goldar I quite like in these scenes. He never seems quite comfortable. You can see that he's jumpy and frightened. He's scared of Ivan in a way he's not scared of others. The only one he's almost as afraid of is Lord Zed. But the thing is, like, you even have Goldar who's a little... he seems almost... he is sucking up, but he's also a little startled, I think, when, you have Ivan who, for example, at one point, just complains, I'm bored, like a child, while the slaves are working, and he's just like, I'm bored. And you have Goldar who doesn't seem to know where to throw himself. Should he, like, do a ballet dance himself? Should he, like, kill someone for the guy's entertainment? What does he do? Like, thankfully for Goldar's sake, Ivan soon decides to pick one of the mind-controlled slaves and just says, you, dance for me. And the guy dances. Then he says, do the swim. At which point Goldar gets a little... He does seem to enjoy himself here and just says ballet, which really seems to entertain Ivan. And Ivan is distracted until the Tongu warriors arrive. And I think that this kind of spares the one slave because Ivan was clearly going to kill him right after. Because that's the only logical conclusion to what he's doing there. He's having the guy dance, then it's, it's basically dance, monkey dance, then I'm going to get rid of you. Yeah, he's working, but whatever. I've got like 20,000 or 50,000 more working right now. What's one? And I know it sounds totally irrational and illogical, but that's Ivan in a nutshell, right? Like, this is something which I know people will say, well, that's Power Rangers. To an extent, Rita was irrational and illogical like that. But the difference is, how do I put it? Rita was like the worst kind of woman, all vibes and feelings, no strategic thinking. There are women like that. Ivan is like a child who's found his dad's handgun. To quote Jurassic Park, he's like, well, look, a new toy. There's no... Like I said, I know I keep harping on this point, but it's really interesting how different he is from the likes of Drakina, Zed, Vipra, I think it is. I would argue, however, that the terrifying thing with Ivan is he is competent at his core. He is a competent individual. He is a vile one, but he has so much power that he doesn't need much brains. But the problem is he self-sabotages at every step in his plan, if he even has such a thing. So, I'm not saying this to badmouth him. I'm actually praising him as a character. There's really good writing here. And this movie is unjustly mistreated by a lot of critics and people who say, well, this movie is ultimately... they hold up as like Bollywood bad. No. This is not like a Bollywood movie. Let's not insult this movie. Bollywood is terrible. There's not a good thing that's ever come out of it. There's some good things in this movie as a contrast. I won't even compare this to MCU. The MCU I would compare to Bollywood. Because I can't think of a good thing about those movies. This movie, though, has some gems and has an interesting villain study in a way. Where the villain self-sabotages, but, like, he's got more power than, like, Krona from DC Comics. How can you muck that up? Well, he steadily does so. It's like, once he's achieved victory over Zordon, he doesn't know where to throw himself. He doesn't know what to do. And this is a contrast to Lord Zed, who, from what every conversation we glean from him, once Zordon's out of the way, what's Zed's mentality? Well, okay, that's step one. That's phase one in my, like, master plan to conquer the universe. I've got 50 other ideas in mind. It's a bit of the difference of megabyte and hexadecimal from Reboot. Ivan is hexadecimal. Lord Zed is megabyte or Megatron, or even Galvatron from the 1986 Transformers movie. He knows what he's doing. He just, you've got in this movie someone who's bonkers.
And I can't help but think that only one other villain truly succeeded to destroy the command center in Power Rangers. And
Zed.
And
Zed, it took him years and lots of planning.
Oh, yeah. And
like, at the beginning of Zeo, the command center's been utterly, a good chunk of it utterly destroyed. And the trouble is, Zed does take a brief moment to celebrate and go, oh, thank heavens it's gone. Now let's start the process of basically just getting rid of this planet and moving on. The problem is, the Rangers have the Zeo crystals, at which point he's going, oh, for freak's sakes, not this again. And he's back to square one.
I mean, he even destroyed the Brachiozord.
Yeah, he destroys basically everything, but then the Rangers come back with the Zeo crystals, and there's... Okay, no Mario jokes here, but there's another layer to the command center. Yes, there's a bunker beneath the secret lab where Zordon and Alpha made the White Ranger powers. So there's basically a bunker to the bunker. One can't help but feel for poor Lord Zed. I do say poor guy because, like, you know, you try spending perhaps millennia and then a couple of years having to deal with these kids and just to try to murder a guy only to end up getting your every whim frustrated. But anyways, that's enough harping on this point. Now, well, we're going to next time be moving back to the Rangers because they're on Phaedos, and we do have a bit of a knighting type scene, which is going to be pretty neat to analyze. So, and it's going to probably take like 2 videos. Anyways, so stay tuned for that. Also, check out our spare channel, which you'll see pop up on the screen, Bros Crin, where we're going to be putting up our own audio dramas. Please do check it out. It would mean a lot. And don't forget to smash that like and that subscribe button. And, well, stay tuned for the next video. And remember, Rangers, may the power protect you.